Welcome to episode 70 of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I'm Ashley Scott Myers, screenwriter and blogger over at sellingyourscreenplay.com. In this episode's main segment, I'm interviewing Terry Jastrow about his latest film, The Squeeze, starring Jeremy Sumpter. We dig into some of the details about how he wrote this film and how he got it produced, so stay tuned for that. If you find this episode valuable, please help me out by giving me a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking us on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread the word about the podcast, so they are very much appreciated. A couple of quick notes. Any websites or links that I mention in the podcast can be found on my blog in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/podcast, and then just look for episode number 70. Also, if you want my free guide, How to Sell a Screenplay in 5 Weeks, you can pick that up by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. It's completely free. You just put in your email address and I'll send you a new lesson once per week for 5 weeks, along with a bunch of bonus lessons. I teach the whole process of how to sell your screenplay in that guide: how to write a professional logline and query letter, how to find agents, managers, and producers who are looking for material. It really is everything you need to know to sell your screenplay. Just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. Also, a quick plug for the new SYS Screenwriting Analysis Service. It's a really economical way to get high-quality professional script notes. All the readers have experience reading for studios, production companies, agencies, and contests. The readers I've partnered with are the gatekeepers of the industry. They're exactly the same people who are going to be reading your scripts at the companies you submit to. The readers will evaluate your script on several key factors like concept and premise, structure, character, dialogue, and marketability. Every script will get a grade of pass, consider, or recommend. And I'm also offering a bonus. If you get a recommend from one reader, you get a free email and fax blast to my list of industry contacts. This is the exact same blast service I use myself to promote my scripts, and it's the same service I sell on the website. It's a great way to get your script into the hands of producers who are looking to get movies made. I've been running this analysis service now for about 2 months, and some recommends have started to come through. We had our third recommend this past week, so I'm curious to see how these blasts turn out. I know the blasts that I'm doing are very powerful, so with a good quality script behind it, I have high hopes for these writers. Also on the website, you can read a quick bio on each reader and pick the one who you would like to read your screenplay. One question I've been getting a lot lately is about our studio reader pack. Right now it's on sale for just $199, so that's less than $67 per script read. There's really it's as flexible as you want to make it. You can buy it and have one reader read 3 scripts. You can or 3 readers read 3 different scripts. You can have 3 readers read the same script. You can have one reader read the script. You can get notes and then you can send it back, do a bunch of notes, send it back to the same reader, send it back to a different reader. So it's really very flexible. As I said, you just buy the 3-pack. When you buy the 3-pack, as I said, it's only $67 and you can use it however you want. You can use it all at once. You can use it over the course of any number of months that you would like. So if you want a professional script evaluation on your screenplay at a very reasonable price, check out www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/consultants. Again, that's sellingyourscreenplay.com/consultants. Just a quick few words about what I'm working on. I'm finishing up the quick rewrite on my sci-fi thriller script. I talked about this in the last couple of episodes of the podcast. I should have that back. I should have the rewrite done and have it back to the director hopefully by the end of the week. He'll probably have some more additional notes. Hopefully they'll be minor and I'll just be able to polish those up quickly. But once I get this done towards the end of this week, I'll be back onto my mob action thriller script. As I mentioned last time, I have a full draft done. I put up the last third in my writers group last week, got some good notes on it, so I'm going to implement a lot of those notes in the next couple of weeks. I would say, probably mid-May, I'll probably have a draft of that done. I did an email and fax blast last week for a horror comedy script I wrote a couple of years ago. I had good luck with the script. I optioned it a while back, but the producers could never get it funded, so it came back to me after the option lapsed. I actually got a paid writing assignment from that blast I did a couple of years ago with it when I sent it out, and I also actually optioned another script. A producer read this horror comedy, liked it but wasn't crazy about it, but wanted to see what else I had. Ended up reading a teen comedy that I had written with a writing partner and ended up optioning that script. So you just never know where these blasts are going to lead. They can just lead to all sorts of other projects and other opportunities, not just the sale or option of that specific script. Anyway, we'll see how that turns out. So now let's get into the main segment. Today I'm interviewing Terry Jastrow about his latest film, The Squeeze. Here is the interview. Welcome, Terry, to the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Happy to be here with you.
So let's dig into your recent film, The Squeeze. It stars Jeremy Sumpter. Maybe you can give us a quick log line or pitch of the film just for the people that maybe haven't seen the trailer yet.
Okay, happy to. Well, The Squeeze is a caper about big-time gamblers and a young fellow, sort of a modest boy from the small rural town. He's about 21, 22, and he comes from kind of a dysfunctional family, and he has to step up and be the man of the family. And he has uncommon skills and things, and one thing he can do is play golf. So he goes out to his little muni to play the city championship. It's just a one-day event, and he basically wins the thing by about a dozen shots. And there's a big-time gambler that's driving across the country from Mississippi to Las Vegas, hears about this on the radio, pulls off the highway, goes to the golf shop at this muni, and looks for the champion. And they point over in the corner to a boy who looks more like a pizza delivery boy. And the gambler, whose name is Riverboat, says, "I don't mean the caddy, I mean the guy who won." They said, "No, he's the winner." At any rate, that boy's name is Augie. They start playing in matches, and Augie never loses. They get run out of town. They go to Las Vegas. They get embroiled with a big-time Vegas gambler by the name of Jimmy Diamonds, and the matches grow until it's $1 million match. Jimmy Diamonds breaks into Augie's room the night before the match and says, "If you don't lose the match tomorrow, you're going to be at the bottom of the nearest swimming pool with lead boots." A death threat. Augie tries to flee. He's caught by his gambler, Riverboat. He tells Riverboat about the death threat, and Riverboat says, "I have one more piece of information for you. If you don't win the match tomorrow, I will kill you." Mm-hmm. And that's The Squeeze. And that's the third act, is what does this boy do?
Yep, perfect. That's a very succinct summing up of the story. So that's great. I will link to the trailer in the show notes. Where did this idea come from?
My wife is Ann Archer, the wonderful Oscar-nominated Golden Globe-winning actress, Fatal Attraction and Clear and Present Danger and Patriot Games and all of that. And we were sitting with really good friends of ours in Las Vegas, a woman by the name of Keith Flatt, who's one of the senior executives at Wynn Las Vegas in charge of sales and marketing, and her husband, who's a modest and lovely and polite fellow by the name of Keith Flatt. I knew he was also from a small town in Texas, and I knew he played a little golf, and we said, "Well, Keith, tell us a little bit about your background." And he sat there and told us this story. And I'm like, what the hell? That is a movie. And so I've always loved, sort of the romantic, almost larger-than-life gamblers. For instance, some of my favorite movies are The Sting and The Color of Money and Hustler and some of those. And so I just couldn't resist the idea of go out and doing this movie. It's kind of a blend between The Sting and Tin Cup.
Yeah. I'm curious. I wrote a baseball comedy screenplay a few years ago, and one of the things I've gotten some pushback from producers is that baseball isn't nearly as international as some sports like soccer and basketball. So a lot of producers don't feel like the foreign markets, they feel like the foreign markets are fairly limited for a baseball film. Did you get any sort of pushback like that, this being a golf movie?
Yeah, that's a very fair question. And, American baseball is what it is, and frankly, so is American football. And, in other sports, things like basketball and other things are beginning to emerge elsewhere. But golf has about 80 million players around the world, and about half of them are here in the United States. But the point is, I was kind of aware of that and did everything I could to make it not a golf movie, but a caper. So I've always positioned it as a caper in the story of big-time gamblers, because when you see it, more than half of the movie is this intrigue and backroom negotiations between these big-time gamblers. But so I don't think it's a golf movie, but it's a movie that's got really interesting golf in it.
Okay. And that was kind of leading to my next question. I wonder if you have some advice for people who are thinking about writing a sports movie or even specifically a golf movie. Is that kind of your answer? Is that try and, push it more towards the caper aspect or some other aspect so that the sport takes a back seat?
Yeah, no, that's a very fair question, and I think you're being thoughtful for our listeners and consumers to ask this question. Because, on the average, about 50% of all revenue of a movie comes from international sales, that is to say non-U.S. or non-North American. And, American sports just don't travel. They don't care really about, as we were saying, baseball or football. They don't play it. They don't understand it. They don't care. They have their own forms of sports, soccer and cycling and whatever else it is, or what they call football. So I think you got to go in eyes wide open that a story, an American story that has sports in it, could have limited or no appeal internationally. So you've immediately, right off the crack of the bat, you've cut 50% of your potential revenue. It's not a very good business to do movies that have sports in them. Now, if it's a television program and you have a specific television outlet, whether it's cable or network, that's another thing. But actually, sports themes and move in the movie business are not a good mix.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go through your writing process a little bit. Maybe you can just tell us sort of what your process is to write a screenplay. How long did it take you to write the script, and when did you finish it?
Well, first of all, the fundamental essence that propelled me and continues to and always will propel me is fundamental storytelling. I think the thing that trumps all cards when it comes to movies and television programs, for that matter, regardless of budget and regardless of cast, is a good story well told. And I had the great good fortune in the early part of my life to be a producer and director at ABC Sports under the legendary executive producer Roone Arledge, who created Wide World of Sports and founded Monday Night Football and made the Olympic Games the sort of universal television phenomenon that it is. And Roone Arledge had a wonderful mantra that actually began all of the episodes of ABC's Wide World of Sports, and it's this: it's the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, the human drama of athletic competition. So in a very early age, as a young producer and director, I learned sort of the best practices of storytelling. And however varied the stories are, and there's an infinite variety of stories, there are some fundamental things about storytelling that you need to know that have to do with a protagonist and antagonist and setting the plot and complicating the plot and story arc, etc. Frankly, I will tell you that one of the huge legs up is that I came upon a seminar or a book first that was written by Robert McKee. It's called Story. One word, Story, and it's a book, and he does seminars. I'm sure he still does. I
just took his seminar just 2 weeks ago. I took his seminar in Los Angeles. So yeah, he's still out there doing them.
Now I've done 4 of them. Because there's a lot to download and assimilate, but I think it's really a huge leg, a tremendously insightful and inspirational with writers, because while you sit down at a blank piece of paper and it's your pen or your word processor and in a blank sheet and it goes to imagination, but nonetheless there are basic fundamental things in the craft that you at least need to know. Now you can depart for them ultimately and in the end, but it's important to have a kind of a general idea of when it's done. Usually, how is it done?
Okay. So when did you start writing this specific screenplay?
I started writing it about, 3 years ago after we heard that story. And
okay.
I'm going to guess it took me on the order of about a year. Writers use a variety of things for inspiration, but let's just say as a start, there is, the true story, there is research, and there is imagination. and others. But so you get the basic underlying true story. You go out and research and interview people and find out all you can about the genre, et cetera. And then you have your own imagination. Of the three, my favorite is research. Because I just think that there's so many riches that you find when you really get out there and push and shove and study and get really sort of lost in the story. So I love that process. And finally, it took me about a year to cobble together the story. As is usually the case, it was way too long. It was something along the line of 200 pages. But that's another thing about storytelling. I think you basically get it, all out there. I love the story of Leonardo da Vinci when he was talking about how he made the David, the great statue of the David in Florence. He said, I got a huge block of marble, and I cut everything away that wasn't the David. And I think that's a beautiful way to describe screenplay writing, because you sort of get all your assets assimilated, and then you trim it down, and then it got to be about 120 pages, and then writing becomes rewriting. So trimming, I love actors, and I taught acting, and I love table reads. It's a tremendous insight into where your script is, what's working, what's not working, what's boring, what's funny, what's not. So I love table reads, and I would say the whole thing sort of was heading on 2 years from kind of the beginning of, okay, let's go to work on it, to, okay, we got a shooting script.
I wonder if you can just real quickly just tell us, what does that research look like? I mean, did you find some, professional golf gamblers and go have lunch with them? What exactly did you do for the research stage?
Yeah, well, good. Well, there's always plenty of books and always plenty of people to interview. But in this case, when we talk about these notorious gamblers, professional gamblers in the really 40s, 50s, 60s, and maybe in the early 70s. There are people like Titanic Thompson and Amarillo Slim and Minnesota Fats and Jimmy the Greek Snyder and others, and I'm pretty sure all of them are no longer with us. But they're really interesting characters, and they get romanticized, almost like Bonnie and Clyde. So I read every book and every article I could find on them, and I talked to a number of people still alive who played against them and lost money against them, and what they would do and what they were like and what was their lure. So so the answer to your question would be every article, every book, and thank God today for like Google, right? You can find a lot out, and then find out people who played against them and knew them and hung out with them, and you begin to get a pretty good picture of it with all those resources.
Yeah. So let's maybe briefly, you can just tell us how can people see The Squeeze? When is it coming out, and where is it going to be available?
Well, thanks for the question. There's a couple answers to it. One is actually the first place that someone can see the movie is that next Thursday on the 16th, April 16th, we're doing a very pioneering and new thing with Groupon, the online sort of daily marketer. And Groupon loves entertainment product, and they've sold movies whereby you could get a ticket and go to your local AMC, or you'd buy a DVD. But for the first time on Groupon, you can buy a movie, The Squeeze, and on a digital download capacity. So in an agreement with Vimeo, you can go April 16th before the actual public release in theater, and you can buy The Squeeze as a digital download, and you then you own it on your server, and you can watch it.
Perfect.
And then it's also offered with different things. One of them is Tom Watson's Great Golf Instructional. Another offer is a tea time in your area. But basically, that's April 16th, next Thursday, and then next Friday, the April 17th, it's available in selected theaters. Here in Los Angeles, it's at a theater, an AMC out in Pasadena, and on video on demand. Important, Leslie, because when on a recent poll to the American audience, when asked where do you watch your movies, 90% say at home. So, video on demand is emerging, has emerged and will continue to emerge as a really important marketplace for movies. But also, everybody wants their movies in a theater, and that's a good place to be on April 17th as well.
Perfect. Well, Terry, you've been very generous with your time. I appreciate you coming on the show.
You bet. Best of luck to you.
Hey, best of luck to you, too. Take it easy.
A quick plug for my email and fax blast service. I'm running a special right now where you can purchase 1/3 of the blast for a little more than $50. The total is around 6,000 contacts, so this first 1/3 is still around 2,000 contacts, so it's a solid number of producers. I've done this just to lower the barrier of entry so that people can check out this service without having to invest a whole lot of money up front. The one thing that hasn't changed, I still require that you join SYS Select, which at the time of this recording is just $24.99 per month. The reason I require this as part of the process is that I'm going to personally look at your logline and query letter and help you make them as good as possible. This is really for everyone's benefit. I want to make sure that the query letters and loglines are well written before I send them out to my list. The people receiving these email queries can unsubscribe to these blasts, so sending out a bunch of half-baked query letters will just burn the list up, which of course will hurt everyone who might want to use this service in the future. So the 1/3 blast plus 1 month of SYS Select is $78. You're free to cancel the SYS Select membership after you get your login and query letter in place. So it's just $78 basically to get a blast to 2,000 industry contacts, and then of course you can buy the other 2/3 of the blast if you find that this is working well for you. Hopefully it will. So if you want to give it a try, now is the time. Anyway, check out sellingyourscreenplay.com/blast. Again, that's sellingyourscreenplay.com/blast. In the next episode of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast, I'm going to be interviewing Jorge Gonzalez, who works at the Tracking Board. They have a whole host of services for screenwriters, including a script contest. And the script contest is really putting up some remarkable numbers on how many of their writers, the writers that win or place highly in the contest, how many of them end up getting representation with an agent or a manager, or end up optioning the script. They have some incredible numbers. I talked to Jorge about those numbers and kind of what they all mean. So if you're interested in potentially signing up for their contest, again, it's the Tracking Board contest. Definitely check out that episode. That will be next week. So keep an eye out for that. Anyway, that's the show. Thank you for listening.